welcome to this week's show of Not the Andrew Neil Show. He's not been on a lot lately, has he?
No, I don't know what's happening there. I think because he does a Sunday, he gets a Monday, Tuesday off.
Or maybe he's headed off to Tuscany already.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
holidays,
it's probably,
holidays. You know, with that amount of money, you've got to get some time to spend it, haven't you?
Well then, folks, we went to see a movie last week. You've Been Trumped by Anthony Baxter. All about you know who, the Donald. And you in particular got very upset about it, did you not?
Well, very, very much so. I mean, it's not... The point is, he's a foreigner, and he's the worst kind of foreigner imaginable. He's an American who comes across here thinking that, oh, well, you know, my name's the Donald, so I own Scotland, and I can do everything else. And it's worrying in the way that the government at the time, you know, Mr. Salmon's government, appeared to be rolling over to help him to, you know, to ride roughshod, almost a second Highland clearances in the way they were doing. I found it extremely worrying.
Yeah, you were saying there a wee while ago off camera about how the natives, the indigenous natives of the mini estate were just bullied and harassed and almost driven off their land.
Well, we see with the police, I mean, they went away, but Trump would come along and just sort of unilaterally steal a bit of their land, cut their water off, chop their electricity off, and the police would just say, oh, nothing to do with us, we're looking for a Greggs. But they went away to reclaim anything else, and along would come the police and arrest them and drag them off, and we actually seen some horrific scenes. Now that's obviously done with the full backing of probably the local council, police board, and the Scottish government, because Salmon was their MSP, and he's chosen to do absolutely nothing about it.
I think it was Mr. Forbes. He was kind of the star. He's the man with the farm that looks like a dump, according to Mr. Trump.
Yeah. It looks like a farm.
Yeah, it looks like a farm.
Looking farm. But one morning, Michael Forbes, he went out and found these flags planted across his land, surveyor's flags, and removed them straight away. It's his land.
Well,
and then he was accused of stealing them.
It wasn't even that. It was the fact that they were small wire flags, and they were dangerous. They weren't on sticks.
Oh, they were metal. They were on metal things sticking out the ground.
Basically, cut up a coat hanger jobs.
Right.
So you know, kids or whatever playing there. I mean, they were dangerous. So he got done for theft, and was told to return them. So that was done. They then stole his fence.
That's true.
Like. Took the fence out,
but
and
the police didn't charge him.
Took out his telegraph pole, which wasn't for telegraph; it was for electricity, intentionally. And the police did nothing about it. Just
well, I mean,
these things happen.
As far as I could see, the people that I got particularly angry about was the Grampian police.
Oh, that was,
I don't think they did their job, and I mean, they should be. It's them that should be brought to account.
Well, if they did their job, they did it one-sided.
That's what I mean. So you're not doing your job because
and then
keeping the peace. I mean, if you do it one-sided and you keep doing it one-sided, you provoke a violent reaction.
The police are quite obviously doing it with the full backing of the local MSP. It also happens to be the First Minister.
Yeah,
I mean, there's absolutely no doubt. I'm sorry, if I was an MSP and that was happening to people in my area, I'm quite sure with either of you two, I would ask a question in Parliament if I was getting nothing. I would go straight. For them. I just found it appalling.
I have some serious doubts about it. I can't see Alex Salmon not platforming for the WENA, really.
But he hasn't, and he didn't.
But the gains he would have got out of that, because he wouldn't have had to attack Trump, he would have attacked the local police.
But he hasn't, and he's known it, and he still hasn't said anything at all. He's also, because he was the MSP with it, because of conflicts, when it comes to calling it in. But he has absolutely, and that's actually from the people himself, he has done absolutely nothing for his constituents.
You mentioned earlier that the thing was set in motion by...
Originally with Jack McConnell, yeah.
Who was leader of the Labour Party at the time.
When he was First Minister.
And yet, I find that difficult because the Labour Party did attack Salmon over that, and he didn't bring that up. So if he initiated...
I think when it first...
the whole thing.
Yeah, but the initiating when it's in the planning stages, having a look at it, and then it still has to go through the planning process, that whole bit which caused the Liberal guy whatever his, I forgot his name.
He was out.
Yeah, and he jumped over to the Greens. I suppose, you know, it started, the whole initial, it started in that stages when McConnell was in charge. But when they were actually on the ground, ripping up, vandalising, harassing, arresting, locking up.
No.
That's on the Salmons watch.
It was when they bulldozed 30-foot high sand dunes round the houses.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to look at it.
So they were totally isolated. They had no view, nothing.
Not in planning. I mean, planning can come down. Total breach of planning. He basically did exactly what it liked. Now, my daughter, who's quite political on an alternative basis. Now, she's always believed in Scottish independence, and now she's actually thinking about it again because she's sort of looking. She's looking at Salmond and this government and thinking, well, here's a foreigner. You know, this, you know, American. As I said, the worst kind of foreigner you could ever imagine. And basically coming across, running roughshod, taking and doing exactly what they like, with the full backing of the forces of law and order, and quite obviously the First Minister. So she says, well, at the moment, I mean, you have England or the British running around, whatever they want to call themselves, and taking the resources with oil and everything else, and trying to make out that we're subsidy junkies. She would prefer to give it to the English than give it to the Americans. As simple as that.
I wonder where you were going with that one.
I think you're making a huge leap here. I'm sorry. There's umpteen layers to go through before you get to Salmond.
In any case,
He's
Salmond,
the MSP.
Yeah, but in any case, Salmond and Trump have fallen out big time.
Oh, only after, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, he was saying all that before because mine, it was McConnell. It was McConnell that told him, which was in the film, that he wouldn't be getting, you know, he'd given him an assurance he wouldn't be getting any win packs.
Why would you believe anything Trump said? Do you seriously believe?
Well, he does,
that
obviously. So
either Jack McConnell or Salmond ever said to him, "Oh, there won't be any wind farms"?
Yeah.
No. What Trump's looking for is an excuse not to spend the money he promised to
That's
spend.
right.
Oh, yeah.
He claims he spent it was going to be £1 billion project. He claims to have spent over 100 million already, and yet somebody else has just built a new golf course near Dundee, and it's cost 13 million, not 100 million.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's a liar. He's looking for an excuse to get out of it.
Well, mind is appearing.
By all accounts, that's what he's after.
When he appeared at the Scottish Parliament as, you know, with the investigation into wind power and all that, and where's your evidence? To which, as he rises up and the evidence. And the idea that he's a liar, and seriously, I mean, this man was actually being taken seriously in America, but then, you know, you've only got to look at their presidents. To be the American president, could you imagine? Imagine somebody like that.
I'm sorry.
I was actually surprised that when they could actually come up with Obama, he looked almost normal.
Yeah, but he's turned out to be more or less the same, actually.
Come on, when they put an actor in as president, we knew the game was over.
The thing about Trump, I mean, in America, he's sitting, getting interviewed by whoever it was, claiming that this farmer was living in a pigsty, that it was a slum.
Yeah, it was a normal working farm when you went inside.
It was a working farm.
On the east coast, what would he look like?
I mean, the guy was a farmer, he was a fisherman, you know, and I'm sorry.
Oh yes, and what happened to? Okay, but we could go on a bit. Look, I tell you what, guys. What did you think was the movie worth going to see? Are we going to tell the viewers to go and see this movie?
Definitely. Yeah.
It was worth going to see. I have certain doubts. I didn't get as exercised about it as you because I have seen the police being less than even-handed in the past. All you need to do is go on enough demos. You must have seen it.
Oh, of course.
You know,
I was
that didn't surprise
yes,
me.
and I was disappointed too that the land grabs and there was a very poor explanation. We could have done with some graphics, very simple graphics, some pink and green and blue bits on a map, and to see the land apparently that was disputed. That was, I really was expecting that, a better explanation.
Well, I mean, what's the chap's name? He's a Letha, the guy, the specialist land guy.
Oh, Andy Whiteman was there.
Andy Whiteman. I mean, as he pointed out, the deeds to the guy's farm, they wanted to cut a corner off one of the buildings, which I think was his kitchen, bathroom, something.
He was going to knock at it.
And they were
Trump was
claiming,
gonna knock it down.
and it was plain as the nose on your face when you looked at the deeds that it was his land. But they just decided they'd do it.
And
then attempted to do it while in dispute, while it was going through the courts.
That's a normal style, I think.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing, because it's civil, and as it's civil, the guy with the money always wins.
Yeah, wait a minute. didn't it occur to you when you were watching that, it was just like the plot of all the Western movies you watched when you were growing up as a kid?
Yes.
Chief, you mean the guy's a Yank?
So all we need now is Sean Connery to come through and blow his head off.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Shalako, yes,
Problem
that's how
solved.
Shalako.
Well, look, that was, go and see the movie.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
see what you were saying about the police, they've been less than even-handed. Just as like a retort, I come from London, I come from an Irish community, so that's a given. You know, I mean, what are you? I'll be looking for somebody that might be a bomber, hasn't bombed away. You'll do. You're Irish. Looking for someone
no,
that's
you
oh,
don't-
you're black. You'll do.
You didn't need to be Irish.
Are you a Muslim?
You just needed to be a Scotsman with a funny accent.
Oh yeah,
carrying a table leg and
check,
get shot dead.
Yeah.
Nobody went to prison for that.
Yeah, I suppose you have to remember we do live in the most secretive, policed society. Actually,
When
Go
did you grow up in London in the early 70s?
I was a bit more than a teenager.
But in those days, and history, this is a fact, the Metropolitan Police was a totally corrupt force.
Oh yeah, they always
Sweeney.
have been. Yeah. Well, they would. Well, you find in West London, particularly that
I
in the
didn't
late
make this up, by the way.
'60s, '70s. No, there's a whole series. You could log it. Policemen selling you drugs in West London in the late '60s, early '70s. They would sell you them, bust you them, then sell you them back again, and all that, and then get you to. I mean, corrupt wasn't the word really. I mean, really just.
It is. The whole thing's quite scary. The older I get, and the more of this you see, and the claims that are made, you know, the mother of all parliaments, you know,
Oh.
the finest police force, totally incorruptible, Dixon and Dock Green, all that, and you look at it and you think, you know, are we just waking up to it, or was this known anyway?
We've got a corrupt police force, a corrupt politicians, we've got a corrupt media. What more do you need to say that the whole society is corrupt?
It's the United Kingdom of corruption.
I was reading something
I like that
recently.
line. I think I'll call this programme the United Kingdom of Corruption.
I was reading something recently that really did sum it up quite nicely. I can't remember the exact quote, but the essence of it was that the government are the only people that can legitimately use violence through the police.
Well, that defines the nation state.
Well, the article was
The legitimate
really
use
about
of force, it's
how
called.
do elites protect themselves. That's what it was really about. You know, no information comes out of it. It's like a black hole, so they can do what they want behind that. But when they do get caught out, and you get riots, and you get people really upset, they just bring the police in.
Mhm.
Because they have the legitimate right to use violence.
Well, none of
Nobody else does.
this is a surprise. I mean, maybe to you, but I mean, that's the trouble. I went and studied politics through a
Yeah, I mean
Marxist
that's
view.
always been the normal way. And when you were talking about corruption, and now this is actually historic, and the fact that it's historic and it's the first time it's happened is actually scary. The policeman, the retired detective chief superintendent, there's two guys that
Yes.
served 10 years. He withheld evidence. They were.
Where was this?
This was in Fife.
In Fife, the two of them were convicted. He decided these two were going to jail. This was it. The fact that the guy they were meant to be
Careful what
killed.
you say.
Yeah, no, this is all fact.
The
It's
guy's
all-
been done for
yeah,
it.
he's got 5 years in jail. The superintendent.
Wow.
He's just been, and that's historic. They actually caught in jail a corrupt policeman. Big wow.
I just wish they would convict and jail.
The guy was alive
a
6
policeman.
days after.
But Stuart, this
It was
guy
incredible.
basically took 15 statements from members of the public,
Fine, upstanding members of the public.
and went, oh, we'll just ignore that, because it all hinged on the date the guy died on, and say it was the 10th of the month. Well, all these witnesses said they'd seen the guy who'd been killed
16th.
up to the 16th.
Right.
And he just went, ooh, don't need that. So he didn't tell the prosecutor,
Prosecution.
the defence, none of it was declared to anybody. So the whole basis of the trial, he just...
Well, and
I mean, these guys weren't serious gangsters, these were petty criminals, but he just decided they were going to.
But as I say, the one that really appalls me is that all the years that I've taken any interest in police behaviour, because I believe we need a police force, but it seems to me that there's literally 1,400 people have died over the last few years in Britain at the hands of the police, and not a single policeman has gone to jail.
Well, it's sorry, it fell down the stairs.
No, but the point
I
is,
know.
but you lose all sense
Yeah.
of... How can you trust the police?
I
Nobody,
saw-
a policeman
I saw-
cannot be jailed.
I saw that stat, and I'm sorry, 140 people a year are killed in police
Well,
custody.
this is over 30 or 40
Die
years.
no, they die in police custody. Difference. They
I mean,
die.
sorry, I mean,
have
I
heart
won't
attacks
mention
or-
the guy's name even though he is dead, freely admitted. and we're talking 70s here, when the cop shop was still on the high street in Edinburgh, there was stairs that led down to a misused desk where the cells were, and they regularly just, if the boy was getting a bit stroppy. I mean, having said that, the vast majority of them, I wouldn't have the control. Somebody spits on you, your reaction, my reaction is to...
Do you not mind the famous photograph of Orgreave? There's a young woman, photographer.
Orgreave, this was during the miners' strike.
And she's kneeling down to help, and there's this thug, because that's all you could call him, this criminal thug on a horse with a large truncheon, just like he's away in the Battle of Balaclava or something, and he's leaning down to whack this woman helping a person. And the whole way that the press and the government and everything all conspired, and they could all get conspired, changed the whole thing around, like the police were reacting to being having stones thrown at them.
Well, the stat that always stuck in my head was the only two guys that got done were the two that threw the stone off the roof that killed the driver off the
drop the
bridge.
slab, yeah.
Everybody else walked.
What are you talking about?
All the people that got arrested during the miners' strike.
All right, now, yeah.
They were the only two that did time.
Oh, this was off a motorway bridge or something?
Yeah, they were the only two that did time. Everybody else walked away.
Well, one of them was MP for Midlothian, David Hamilton, because he put his foot over the white line and hustle bang into the van and everything else. Charged this.
Okay then, I think guys, we've exercised our lungs a little and we've
we've
let
had
off a bit of steam. In fact, we could say this.
Next time we discuss the police, can we wear black hoods?
Okay. And Phil here
Oh, by the way, we're all wearing masks.
Okay. Phil here said earlier on before we started this he wanted to have a rave, and I'm saying, no, a rant you mean? No, he said a rave, and I think you've taken it from a rant to a rave, so it's time to go. Thank you very much.